Hi. This morning I thought I'd have a go at sort of explaining what happens when we are people pleasers. There's a sort of kind of amber flag for me when people say, "Oh, she's such a nice woman. She's such a nice woman," or "He's such a nice guy." Um, Partly because there's a kind of, if somebody is consistently in that sort of genre of their personality, they're 9 times out of 10 inauthentic, because we can't be that person all of the time. So people pleasing is something that we do to keep the peace. It's a learned behavior which helps us or it helps us kind of fit in. And I've done a bit about fitting in before, but it's a sort of where we're conflict averse. So we're not going to say no. We're going to say maybe or try or I'll have a go at that, or whatever. We people please as a way of avoiding saying no. And when we're people pleasing, we are privileging somebody else's needs over our needs. Um, and that sounds like, it's a harmless thing to do, but actually, if you have done that increasingly, if that has been your method of becoming in your life, you've got a whole repository of unmet needs, where you're just constantly sort of deferring to somebody else's needs. So if you hear yourself saying things like the following: "I'm fine with whatever you decide," that is a kind of abdication of you saying, "This is what I want, a cheeseburger and chips," when they've just suggested we'll go for a curry. There's this kind of fear of saying what your needs are or what you'd really like, or even just being a bit more considered about what you do want. Now, it might be that you don't actually mind that day, but there'll be lots of other times when actually you are doing that keeping the peace thing. So there are things like, let's not make a big deal out of this. You're already saying in that sentence that it is a big deal. Um, so, so just being cautious about the way we language, and noticing when we're in that kind of, the conflict aversion is a kind of best word for it, or people pleasing, and it is about privileging someone else's needs over yours. So things like, "It doesn't really matter to me. I just want everyone to get along. Can we just agree to disagree?" Now, that is actually sometimes quite a helpful one, because it might be that you need to step back and just um, kind of find a way of not being in a battle zone. So if you can agree to disagree, it gives you a pause, a power pause, in which you can sort of regroup, get yourself into a different frame of mind, rather than kind of all guns blazing. So that can be helpful, and most of these can be helpful. But if it's habitual and you're feel unable to do the alternative, which is say exactly what your needs are, then that's problematic, because you do end up with this kind of big repository of stuff which just sits there underneath simmering. And eventually it will come out. It's like the bubble in the wallpaper. So other ways that the conflict aversion manifests is whatever makes you happy. And listen to the tone when people are saying things like this, because contempt is usually in the tone rather than just in the words. So or somebody's critic, and your own critic. So I don't want to step on anyone's toes. It's not worth arguing over. I'm sorry if I upset you. Now, that's actually, you might be sorry, But if you're not, and you just say it as a kind of way to kind of calm things down or avoid any further conflict, it's worthy of kind of just paying attention to this. Let's keep the peace. I'd rather not get involved. And that may be a valid way for you to do it. And these are things that actually you might never say out loud, but they're actually happening in your head. So that is also, noticing is the name of the psychoeducation game. If you notice these kinds of things going through your mind, then it's like the messaging stuff that I've talked about before. Uh, Anything for a quiet life. I'll just toe the line. I'll just toe the line. Oh my God. That is something that, be careful about that stuff. And if you have other people around you that are saying that stuff, then you will also notice that they are functioning from a kind of people-pleasing position, which means that they're not feeling safe enough, or it's too risky to be authentic. Don't rock the boat, button your lip, it's not worth it, don't engage, don't rise to it, don't make a fuss, and keep quiet. And as I've already said in another video, the idea that silence is golden is an absolute nonsense. But so many of us have been brought up with the wheeshed or the shh, or just be quiet, and there wasn't an opportunity to actually really say what was going on for you. And certainly if you were in an emotional state, which an adult around you couldn't cope with, those were very common ways of silencing you. And their intention was not to hurt you. That's the other thing, is that doing psychoeducation isn't really about pointing a finger of blame at anybody. It's just sort of understanding how you've become who you've become, and then when we understand that, you're able to do something different. If you're just doing the same old, then if nothing changes, nothing changes. So people pleasing is part of a kind of genre that I would be anticipating in somebody's language from the get-go. I would be on alert for the language that is part of that people pleasing genre. So you can be too. Okay.